Hello everybody, welcome to our CommBeBiz webinar on communication. My name is Sylvia Schreiber. I'm holding this webinar from Brussels. I'm part of the CommBeBiz project, which I will explain in a minute to you. I welcome everybody to our seminar, and I'm happy that we work together for the next half an hour or 45 minutes. More impact through tailored communication. This is the title of our webinar, and it should help you to develop a communication plan for a Horizon 2020 EU research project in the bioeconomy. So I tried to flip the page. Not yet done. Yes. So just to introduce you our project, we are also a Horizon 2020 project on communication. CommBeBiz stands for Communicate and Bridge Bioeconomy Research towards Business. So we are basically a communication network for EU-funded projects in the bioeconomy, and whether you are a FP7 or a Horizon 2020 projects in this field, please feel free to join us. Our website is quite simple. It's written there down on the blue window. It's www.commbebiz.eu. This is the central web portal, and you will see there are a lot of communication services. Also, one of our assets is we have 5 bioeconomy sub-segments. So we have specific information for agriculture, for food, marine, forest, and industry in biotechnology. We are there to support your knowledge transfer towards media, towards technology developers, industry, investors, and social innovation projects. Now let's go to what the Commission is asking when they are talking about research communication. So there is something new in Horizon 2020 in the grant agreement. Article 31.1 asks definitely for some duties of the beneficiaries, so they must propose the action and its results by providing targeted information to multiple audiences in a strategic and effective manner. So for the law text, I try. So they also say in this grant agreement that there should be a comprehensive communication plan. This is why we are talking today and why we are holding this webinar. You have to get a separate work package for communication or include definitely communication into another work package. You need to address the public policy perspective with your communication activities. You need to keep the communication measures proportionate to the scale of the action, and you are free to choose the type of communication activities. So actually, what does this mean? So the new development is that they ask for communication, and communication is more than dissemination, because communication looks more for comments, more spin, more challenge orientation, and it goes beyond the own community. That is meant when they ask for public perspective. So communication means also you have more targeted, more tailored information versus a simply distributed piece of information, tailored formats for specific target groups versus generic information material. And this communication requirement looks not only for numbers at the end of the projects, but also for your impacts. So there are some performance indicators which reflect quantity and quality. We will come up to this at the end of this webinar when it was explained how to set up a communication plan. So what was before? So the Commission now is asking for more impact, and we try to explain how to reach it. What was this before? Before, a project in FP6 or FP7 asked also for dissemination activities, and actually the dissemination focused on a description of your project works. It was output oriented, so because you could count numbers of your flyers, of your events, of your workshops you were holding, and you showed there some classic dissemination elements in each of the former projects. It were the outputs such as your logo, here I took the protein insect logo, or a website, your flyer and leaflet, each project of you had one, and your newsletter, which was very in fashion 10 years ago, and also the workshops for different target groups. These are the classic elements of dissemination. You should keep these elements, but now you are asked to go beyond for a communication which demonstrates impact and is outcome oriented. What does it mean? Communication is impact oriented. What does it mean? So it means information which is aimed, which has a purpose to go to project outcomes. So communication is not only produce leaflet and count the numbers of their distribution, it asks also for the benefits and the meaning to society and users. It demonstrates more the future applications and improvements, and it maximizes the outreach to and the feedback from wider groups, and it prepares a further exploitation of your research results. So this communication can have a purpose to prepare and to support further relations to investors or to schools or to social innovation groups, and communication can help you to reach these final exploitation goals. So if you start this, you start a new thinking. The basic phrase there is not the project is important, what counts much more are the benefits and the meaning of your project results to various target groups. So by turning to these key phrases, you try to reach non-academic groups, you try to receive their feedback and their comment, you measure the impact with some quality indicators, you analyze more your policy or your market options, and you support with all these activities the exploitation of your research results. So that's actually what's behind the difference between mere dissemination and communication. So how to reach this? One way to reach a better communication of your project and project research results, you push up the classic means, you push up the classic channels. So you have old means, but you have new formats for new targets. So you craft comprehensive materials, you organize popular events at school, you try to reach consumer associations. And there you have first new impact indicators. It's sure the number of visitors, your numbers of circulations, the number of new groups contacted, but also you collect while meeting these people their comments. You ask for more requests, you care and cater for new robust contacts, or you ask for speaking opportunities. This is actually a quality impact indicator for a new format of communication. Then secondly, a classic channel and its push-up, you extend the use of your website by syndication. What is that? You build groups with related projects, with allied projects working in the same field, so-called sister projects, and try to exchange your material. So you use other platforms and portals. You exchange your newsletters, you exchange articles, you exchange postcards and clips with these sisters and partners. And you post new uploads on social media. You also can use their new impact indicators like the frequency of postings, the likes and followers, the comments and the blogs, and of course the number of visits and downloads. So this is classic, pushed up, quite simple to reach a better impact than before. And of course there is novel, communication channels, which came up with the new IT and electronic opportunities of social media. Everybody, I think, of the project communicators nowadays has a Twitter account or a Facebook, or you use YouTube, and there also you have a good use as a loudspeaker for your project output. So this means when a scientific article has appeared in a peer-reviewed magazine, then you use the social media as loudspeaker to announce and to raise attention for the scientific article. Or when you have posted this article or press release on the article on your website, you use Twitter as a loudspeaker to draw people in. So there is also these impact indicators for downloads, followers, retweets, comments, and likes. You also can create more traffic on your website when you launch a study or a survey, or when you put an information in a condensed format, which is an infograph or a podcast, which you can use online or also print. So this makes your research relevant. You spread your results and your case studies by using graphs, figures, and quotes, which is for different groups a very tailored measure to raise awareness and to raise the distribution of your results. Here you also see the specific impact indicators, which range from downloads to uptake on partner portals and by media. And the third new and very, very powerful communication channel is a news release, a press pack, or a media interview, where you have to invite media people. You can raise their interest also with the survey and their results, or a survey or a summary of your research results, which could be put into a news release, and the press packs, which offer interviews or interview contacts. And there, of course, you have the full range of impact indicators, which is the size of your dissemination list, the number of media requests, the number of media coverage, the quotation or citation rates, interviews printed and broadcasted, and also you can have so to say, a list of best rated and second rated media, nationwide or local and regional. So these are really high quality impact indicators, and it goes without saying, this requires a certain specific training and experience to come to these heights of communication and its good results in research communication. But just to complete these novel communications channels, which are really there to raise your impact and to reach non-academic groups for a public perspective as asked by the grant agreement and EU laws. So, yes, now we have some new and unconventional formats, which is edutainment. So it's a merge of education and entertainment, for instance, serious gaming. We will just come later in the next slide to an example about serious gaming. It's therefore awareness raising and knowledge raising among decision makers. They can play through options and capture consequences of their basic decisions, which especially is a very, very good tool for bioeconomy, because it affects so many different fields when you start and launch a bioeconomy discovery and product. Another form and unconventional format is a comical. This is a merge of comics and commercial. It's storytelling and infotainment in one format, and it reaches new target groups like schoolers, like pupils, students, young professionals with a comic clip. I will show you an example immediately. First example for edutainment, the BioConcept project, which was in FP7, they went to serious gaming by playing through the consequences of biorefineries with plant-based chemicals, and this asked for a system change in agriculture, and it has consequences for food, for feed chains, for production methods, for spatial planning, for logistics. And here down you see a photograph from a workshop with this steering games edutainment exercise, where students play through optional system changes and constraints and took different role of stakeholders. A role of a politician, a role of a business partner, a role of a computer with their different perspectives, and the software of this game was played on their laptops, and they played this through in a workshop last year in Germany. So bioconcept, if you want to know more, in the middle of the slide you see the web address. There you find more of this serious gaming concept, which in a nutshell is edutainment. It's education and entertainment at the same time. The second example comes from the comical, a comic and commercial, and it was very, very successfully used by the pharmacy project. You can watch this comic on YouTube. The address you see here, and there are 3 print shots from this comical where they had a live printer which explained in very, very simple words and phrases how the project works and what you can expect from pharmacy. So they dive in waters, in oceans, and sample sediments from the coldest and the hottest and the deepest places on Earth. That's the basic message of their comic. So the title of our webinar is How to Set Up a Communication Plan, and with the following slides I would like to explain this with a case study. It's a case study of the Food for Me project, which is a nutrition project in FP7. It just closes, but the case is still worth to be explained because they were very successful in communication with the general media. So the Food for Me case is a good case for setting up a communication plan. What was this EU project about? So the basic research was on genetic basis of personalized nutrition, so which type of metabolisms are there and other parameters. Then they started a genetic screening of control groups with nutrigenetical methods. The result was a typology of metabolic patterns and activity schemes, so they found persons who were more protein types or more carbohydrate types, or from the activity side who was more a sprinter or endurance type. Then they took these test control groups and brought different types of diets and tested them and evaluated the long-term results. So 2 years period of testing, having the diet and maintained results. So this was part of a very large part of this project, and the results then were transferred in different ways of communication to have the best possible transfer of knowledge to consumers and health professionals. So the stakeholder groups were consumers as well as health professionals. This is very important to know your stakeholder groups, because from this depends the way and the type you communicate. So how did Food for Me start? They started with a strategy, and the strategy started with the identification of target groups, consumers and health professionals, as just explained, and it started with the identification of messages. So the identification of target groups asked to whom should the project communication be addressed to. Scientists and scientist networks, that's goes without saying, but also to media, so to consumer groups as well as health professionals, and to the food and drink industry. So they had basically 4 stakeholder groups. And once these targets are identified, you start with the identification of messages and ask what kind of content should be communicated. Which key sentence for which target and which key results do we want to have and pull out from our communication. So what kind of content is the question for messages? Then how did this look like in practice, the communication strategy? So to whom and what was the first two questions. They decided to reach many, we need to inform, to communicate, to discuss, and to promote results in most popular ways. So they didn't only want to disseminate the results, they wanted to inform stakeholder groups. They wanted to interact, this means communicate with them, with discussions, and of course they had a promotion of results to these different targets with the most popular ways. So this was a strategic decision number one. Then their concept was an answer, how do we do this? How implement we this strategy? And the solution was disseminate your own peer-reviewed science article on own web page, Twitter them, you put them on partner sites and bring them to conference program. And this is very important, convert these scientific content articles into press releases and stories and publish in different formats, with a fact brief, with blogs, with video clips, news releases to different target groups. On the right side of this slide you see what this means. So they went to the Scientific International Congress of Nutrition in Granada, Spain in September 2013, and they had posted a paper there, an abstract. Once this was done, they converted, and so this was the scientific part of the work, communication, scientific communication, and then they transformed and converted the scientific communication in a press release. Latest on personalized nutrition will be presented by Food for Me project researchers at the International Congress of Nutrition. This press release, of course, they sent out to media. They didn't do this with the abstract. The abstract only was for the scientific and the participants of the Congress, but the press release was for a much broader audience, and so they raised awareness of their existence and of their results. So this is the practical example of converting scientific messages into popular stories and news releases. So the next part was, how did they tackle this? How implemented they their strategy and concept? They did it with an action plan. So step one, we just discussed. The researchers published 15 articles on the project and preliminary results in science media, and it was followed by postings on the project websites, on their own website and partner websites. So this raised this contributed to raise their credibility among other scientists and peers. Then the step two, we just explained, they converted the Food for Me platform, exploit the science articles. So the project communication manager came from UFIC, this is the European Consumer Council. He converted and distributed the science briefs on many channels. He put it in a website. First he popularized the language, he put it on the web page, he put it in a newsletter, posted on social media, made out webinars, postcards, leaflets, tweets, film clips, and footings even for TV productions. So this contributed to the outreach and to the larger non-academic groups. There below you see some articles. This was the web format where the scientific article was converted to. This was a tweet, and this was a TV production where one of the scientists gave an interview to a TV station. So this is the practical example of converting scientific content. Step 3. So this science brief, which was also a first step of translation, was syndicated. This means it was posted on the partner networks channels. Partner projects took them up onto their own channels and posted on platforms such as Cordis or also the CommBeBiz platforms. This raises coverage coverage at once, and you can, even if you only report it to your project manager in the EU Commission, it shows a nice number of raised awareness and traffic. Then the fourth step, step 4, they produced stories to use for experts in general media, in TV, radio, print and online magazines, and also specialist blogs. Bloggers received these popularized stories to tell the story on nutrigenetics, and they had a reach out to 1 million audience. We are a media agency which they have hired, and this agency was active in 5 different countries, and so they made it to 1 million audience. Finally, they went back to their experts and implemented step 5. They informed multiplicators when they set up a brochure for health professionals to improve their vocational training. So you see, step 3, 4 and 5 are on the popular side of science, and they reached very general media like El Mundo, a Spanish daily. They made it to the Volkskrant, the daily newspaper in Netherlands. They made it to Brigitte Woman. It is a women's specialist paper, very populist, but they also went to Deutsche Welle TV, Tomorrow Today, a science special, and finally they made this brochure for the health professionals. These are the practical examples of the Food for Me case study. So you saw their step, strategy and concept. It's the design, it's the identification of the key messages, and finally the implementation in a practical action plan of 5 steps. This is excellent research communication, and I guess you ask now, how? How can I do this for my specific project? I think the key lesson we can draw from the Food for Me case study is be comprehensible. Think from the public. What are its expectations? So it's not a project which interests the public, it's the applications and the projects coming out of your project. And secondly, it's a demonstration of public benefits and user benefits. To whom will the project be of help? So you demonstrate practical benefits by saying our result is problem solver, or there are no more shortcomings. We will be healthier with our results. We will be quicker in project delivery. Our product will be cheaper. It will raise your image as a firm, and it can have environmental benefits, and so on and so on. So this is actually what the public can take up from your project results. The second key lesson is have a plan. Every good communication plan consists of 2 parts. It's the strategy and context, and it's the action plan, the implementation, practical. So we have the strategy and concept. It's basically 5 W's. A strategy asks for why should a broader public be reached, so the goals of the communication. Then the strategy asks what should be said, identification of messages, and the strategy asks who should be addressed, the targets and stakeholders, and the concept is asking where do we put these posts, these messages, and when do we do it. It asks for channels and the timing. Again, back to the Food for Me. The first strategic question is, why do we do this project communication? So list your goals. What do you want to reach? What's the purpose of your communication? And Food for Me communication goals were raise awareness of nutrigenetics in science and broader public, raise attention and sensibilize for personalized nutrition, support the market introduction of new products, and support an investor's search. So these were the dedicated Food for Me communication goals. Try to make an exercise and ask what are my goals for my H2020 or FP7 projects, what I want to reach with this communication. Then the second question, the second W is what. what do we want to communicate? What are the key phrases? What are the key messages? Identify and list them. Remember, the Food for Me key messages was one sentence, one striking phrase was analysis of nutritional genes, the DNA diet, or our project there is therefore for promotion of healthy lifestyles through personalized diets, or create individual menus for consumers, or we want to shape new business models for young entrepreneurs. So these are the key phrases or were the key messages from Food for Me example. The third W is who. Whom do I want to reach? It's the analysis of your targets. List your audiences before you start communication. So there is the general public, there are policymakers, there are experts, and there is the group of peers, there's other scientists and researchers. In concentric circles, you see it's broad, it's always getting broader, from rising up from research to experts to policymakers to the general public. You raise and add numbers and figures. The fourth and fifth W is where and when. So when you have identified your targets and your key messages, list the most important channels. Here I think there is a very, very simple but a very powerful argument. Pick first the low-hanging fruits. So very, very low-hanging fruits is a simple slideshow. Prepare one and get it out of the drawer when a visitor group comes to your lab or to your institute, and try to make it with only 3 slides, and try to transform your key messages in infographics. People like this, little comics, little pictures or bars and cakes where you can visualize your statistics or your basic results. Try to put it on 3 slides or 6 slides, but not more, and try to be and remain simple. So other low-hanging fruits also can be found in local networks. Local networks is, for instance, your local radio. You should make the journalists there make aware of your EU project, which is maybe very famous for their region. So you bring international visitors to the region, or you raise the visibility of your city. So this draws attention of the local radio, and they make a feature or an interview or just a little report on your project. The same you could do in schools, bioeconomy at the secondary level, go there to the biology classes or other classes where you can inform on your project and invite interested teachers and scholars to visit your lab or your institute. And you also can easily reach a chamber or a council in your region and start a debate on applications, for instance on bioplastics, which can be a problem solver for food waste in the region, and what could be done together by the council or by the chamber to start the collection of this food waste, which can be the feedstock for your bioplastic application. So these are quite simple measures, and if you have implemented them, you have done a good way, a good part of the way towards better communication. So then new channels, which are a bit more difficult to reach, is approach the general media and highlight the news value of your discovery by starting your press release with a sentence like an EU project has discovered, or a new bacteria will destroy plastic waste, or whatever your project has as a basic and main goal and result. You can also then, if there is a new result or a discovery, invite to a press conference or make a specific media seminar with 2 or 3 prime media and their science editors, and they get the news exclusively, which of course raises their excitement. Or organize a talk with a reporter, invite to a lab visit, show them around, and make them aware and open their eyes for your interesting work. So, and the question is, when do I do it? It's definitely not at the start of the project, but don't always wait until the end to your end report. Maybe think about, what about a midterm result? It could be worth to be communicated. So this requires planning and the translation of your expert language in an easy-to-read text. A lot of projects who were successful in doing this thought about hiring a media agency temporarily. It must not be for the whole range of the project, but you can do now with Horizon 2020, invite a third party to join and hire a media agency, let's say for 3 months, and they try to set up these actions which are listed on this slide and which, frankly spoken, require a good part of, a good deal of expert knowledge in communication, how to address and how to select the right message for this target audience, which is quite, I would say, picky. Science editors, they are flooded with information every day, so you need to have a good plan and a good argument to draw their attention. Next slide. This brings in one image what we told before. It combines the W's together and shows your message and your stakeholders group. Message 1 is for the broad public. It's the key sentence, we have here a DNA diet. The targets for this message are consumers, pupils, and the channels would be events, media, retailers, and pharmacies. Message 2 goes to another stakeholder groups, it goes to professionals. It tells them a personal diet can be for better health. The target groups are doctors, dietists, and the channels would be flyers, debates, brochures, whatever you choose. And the next stakeholder groups is message 3. This goes to the stakeholder group of your peer researchers. It says genetic screening can build a base for personalized nutrition. The targets are the peers, and the channels are science media. I just listed through 3 stakeholder groups. The Protein Insect Project, I showed the logo at the beginning of our presentation. They had 15 stakeholder groups. It went from producers, farmers to industrialists, and for each of the stakeholder groups they had to rethink their message and design a specific tailored project fact sheet which addressed and was appealing to the various groups and targets. So this is also a quite nice brain exercise and change the perspectives and broadens your view on communication and also on your project, because you sharpen your focus and you sharpen your eyes for your project goals. So the last part of the communication plan is an action plan. We had discussed strategy and we have discussed concepts, and the last part is the action plan. Actually, it details where should my communication go and when should it go. And it also details the means of communication. So you want to communicate basically only on web portals, but the second step is to say which one. Or science article, which science media will you address? Flyers, social media, conferences, be detailed, say which one, and the same is when. The time frame for each target group and each action should be noted down in your plan before you start this. Again, the result, a twofold communication plan consists of 2 parts. It's the strategy and the concept. Basically the reasoning why you do this, and you can decline this with the 5 W's: why, what message, to whom, where and when. And finally the implementation with the action plan, detailing concretely saying which channels and on what time. So when you have set up this communication plan and when you have implemented it through your actions and action plan, you start to measure the impact. So impact consists of figures and facts, or impact indicators, sorry. Impact indicators are figures and facts, and they are quality indicators. What's the difference? Figures and facts, that's easy, that's the numbers. It's the clicks, the number of downloads, it's the number of circulations of print material, it's the number of visitors to your events, the number of requests, and basically the sum of your actions. The quality indicators measures more the quality, the content, and feedback and comments. So what high-level context did you gain from your actions? Did you get invitations, further invitations to present your results to expert groups, to policymakers? Did you have coverage in quality media? Did you have talks which followed your actions? Were there expert debates? Did some requests from investors come? Could you arrange talks with policymakers or new industry partners? Did you file a patent or future joint ventures where they started? Or could you get a new project and funding by your communication? So communication is an impact as itself, but it also prepares other impact elements like this exploitation of results, like the patents, like the future joint ventures or new funding. This is measuring impact, and finally, when you have measured your impact, you make an ex post analysis and ask the question, which measures led to success, which were successful, and what did not work, and why did it not work, or why did it work the other. So the instruments for this ex post analysis are evaluation surveys. After events, you ask visitors, you ask participants of your workshops, or in a broader sense, you ask your audience and receivers and recipients of your messages, and this provides statistics and quotes. For instance, after event, they say this was an easy atmosphere and it facilitated the interactions, or your staff had been very polite, or your project materials you have disseminated brought new insights to me. All these quotes are very, very, important measurements of impacts. And when you have all done this, you start the next steps and make a so-called ex-ante analysis. Measuring impact is quite asked by the EU Commission, and if you can present, first you plan, secondly the implementation, and thirdly the impact measuring, I think you can't do better. So this was it from my side. How can CommBeBiz support you by this? So our project coordinator, Rhonda Smith, she also did the webinars on communication and asking for what means impact. How can you raise impact, and how can CommBeBiz support you? Get your membership benefit by joining us on the CommBeBiz website. You get an exchange among peers, networking events, web platform exchange. We have these 5 segments where you have specific segment managers. You can ask questions, or you can easily find partners with other projects in the agri, food, forestry, marine, biotech field. You also can, via a membership, raise your visibility because we can produce materials together, project briefs, which are on our website. You find them there in the knowledge portal. We can produce together case studies, which can be published in our magazine, and we edit these articles jointly. Then we have tests and training. These webinars is one example, what we do now, but we also have once a year a face-to-face training at our annual CommBeBiz event. Then, very important, we have awards. If you are a bit up on the technology readiness level, you can go for our award and apply. The prize is a BIZ coaching, and for 15 selected bioeconomy projects each year. So you get there an individual action plan, what to do, how to make industry in investor readiness, how to get contacts to business people and to technology development. This is part of the individual action plan, and also the access to a European business network by EBN. What is furthermore important, these new awards are open until 15th June. Please visit our website, look to the details, and for the application requirements, we will find there. It's really easy to understand, and we will be happy to meet you again as one of our CommBeBiz award winners next year. The last but not least important feature of our network is you get contacts to experts, to other projects, to policymakers, to industry and innovation managers, even to media online or at events where you can meet our media panels is at ESOF end of July in Manchester, where we try to set up specific contact events and meeting opportunities with media people and bloggers at our CommBeBiz stand in Manchester end July this year at the ESOF conference. This was it from my side. I would be happy to receive questions, and therefore is the chat function. So if there are any questions, it would be very nice if you write down, and we will try our best to answer and to help you further with setting up a communication plan. So, there is no question. All open things are served.
No questions, Sylvia.
No questions so far. Then I thank you very much for your kind participation and for your patience. These slides will be uploaded on YouTube and you can retrieve it from there, but it will also be uploaded on our CommBeBiz website in the library and the knowledge portal. There is a subset, it's called communication, and there you can find these slides and read it carefully and at your comfort at home. Thank you very much, and hope to meet soon at one of our events or at our next webinars. Thanks you. Bye-bye from Brussels.